Okay, so
Oh,
hi Karissa.
hello.
How are you?
Hi. I'm great. How are you?
I am great. I am great. We've been chatting for a while, so just to say hi to everybody, welcome back, like Mari-Lyn and Pam say.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'm Nan. For those of you that have been here before, maybe you've seen me with Pam. This is Karissa, my wonderful friend and fellow channel. Hi, Karissa.
Hello, everyone. I'm happy to be back.
Yes, we're happy to have you here. So me and Karissa, we were sitting here, we're chatting about life, relationships, astrology, for example. We talked about our charts. It was really interesting hearing that you have a Mars in Pisces. So you told me, Karissa, as a fellow channeler and a fellow psychic and intuitive, I realized I've never heard your awakening or your like spiritual,
hmm
yeah, spiritual journey. How did everything start? So we talked a little bit about dreams. Was that kind of how it started?
Yeah, so that's when things started to really, I started to pay attention. So I would have, I've always had very, very active dreams, and I could remember it the next day to a T, every single detail.
Mm,
Um, and so things started to begin a little bit to eerie and real. And I was like, this seems like I've experienced this in a dream and it's happening. And so I started to write them down, and then I started to tell my mom, like, hey, I had a dream about this, and this. And then next thing you know, an event would happen. And so it got to the point where there was a tragedy in my town. Someone was murdered. And that person actually came to me in my dream and told me everything, how it happened, and very detailed. And um, my ex at the time, he knew this person, and so I would report back to him like, "This is what I dreamt, and this is what was said." And next thing you know, there'd be a newspaper article of those things happening. And so I was like,
good.
"Well,
Wow.
this is strange." And so I'm
Oh,
still in
okay.
denial. Yeah, exactly. So I'm still in denial at this time, but I am like, hmm, I'm thinking about some things like possibilities. So then I start researching things, and
Hard
I
to
didn't get,
get up.
yeah, exactly. I didn't get many answers from the researching part of it, but it did help me learn more about these dreams that I've been experiencing.
So,
Um,
what is it that you researched? The actual murder, the person, or just like this dreaming things that happened?
yeah,
Yeah.
things in a dream, and what it means when you dream of a certain thing or situation or color or
Okay.
anything like that. And so then I realized, well, these are things that I'm experiencing in real life. Like, I am experiencing this type of situation in my real life, and here's this bull over here doing a thing in the background, and like, the meaning of what it means is it's happening in my real life. And so I just started noticing those type of things, and I just noted it and put it in a little journal and carried on with my life.
Hmm.
And then there was another event that happened. There was a shooting in here in Las Vegas. I know you're in Sweden, so I'm not sure if you hear about our tragic events that happen in America sometimes, but
We
there
hear
was
about.
a
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. We do.
So that,
I don't
yeah,
remember one with Vegas, but okay, there was a shooting.
it was a country concert. It was like a big country concert. This was years ago,
Okay.
and I dreamt of that, and I dreamt of details where this child was lost. So when I have these dreams, it's usually me and people in my life
Yeah.
as acting as the people that helps. So that helps me realize, who each person is,
Hmm.
their relation to me.
Okay.
So I dreamt about that, and then I dreamt about this little boy that was lost at this concert, and due to all of the chaos that was happening,
Hmm.
the kid somehow, was disconnected from, his parents, and it was on the news that he somehow, somebody must have posted something on social media, I think, and that's how he
Mhm.
was reunited back with the parents. I really don't remember all the details. This was years ago, but I remember telling my mom this story or this dream ahead of time,
Mhm.
not realizing anything was going to happen. But then when she told me, "You're never going to believe this, that this happened," I was like, "What in the world?" Again, still in denial at this point. Just, I was like, "Well, this is so weird," you
You
know.
are you a Capricorn?
I think I do have some Capricorn.
You know, like you're
Very heavy in the sun and the moon. Oh,
wow.
I
Okay.
know.
I think
Um,
yeah, yeah, okay. So in denial, but that also makes it very, because I know there are some people, they dream one little thing and they just kind of run with it. Um, I was the same as you. It's like denial, denial, denial until it hits you in the face where you're like, okay, I have no more excuses.
yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
Wow.
Yeah, and so I just continued having dreams, and um, I remember one time I had a dream of just, I'm really into like the galaxy, universe, stars, planets, all that stuff, and so I had a dream of I was experiencing some not great relationship situations, and so my waking life, I was scared, nervous, paranoid, feeling like something could happen at any moment. I was just very scared. And so I had a dream, and that was the first time I can remember really meeting my spirit guide. And I did not know that was a spirit guide at the time. I later found that to be who it was. And
Okay.
I just felt the energy, and it just felt so good and safe and just beautiful, and nothing I've ever experienced before. And it made me feel safe, like my life would be okay. And then they showed me, different dimensions and stuff. Again, this is all while I'm sleeping. I say sleeping,
Sleeping.
yeah, exactly, but like we're not sleeping. So, so when I woke up, I was just,
When you woke up.
I feel like I don't get sleep sometimes when it gets like that.
Yeah.
Full moon is a very active time with my dreams as well. So,
Yeah, I can imagine that. Yeah,
yeah.
definitely.
Um, so when I had that dream, it was around the same time I started seeing Pam Mari-Lyn's ghost point of
Mhm.
view videos.
Yeah,
And so
yeah.
I was like, they had a Q&A, and I was like, do I do this or do I not? Do I contact them or do I not? Like, I'm not that type of person. I'm more of like, and
Yeah.
so something told me like, just freaking contact them. And so
Yeah.
I emailed them and asked some questions, and sure enough, they were like, how about we set up a time to talk? And that's when I was blown away. That's
Wow.
when I felt like, all these things that I've experienced and so much more. I mean, even in childhood,
Yeah.
I think I'm not crazy. I mean, we could be. I think we're all probably a little crazy, but
I mean, I
in
think it's
that
good to
way,
consider that, there's a possibility for us all that we're a little crazy, but I think it would be dangerous to not consider that, if you know what I mean. Yeah.
exactly. You always got to have a good balance, question. I don't automatically assume everything's, supernatural. You
Yeah.
have to still have that human piece to you, in my
Yeah.
opinion, to where you're logical as well.
Yep.
And so this entire time, all these years, I was only logical, and spirit was knocking on my door like, could you just answer the door? Come on.
Huffing
What do
up,
we got to do around here?
huffing of a puff until you open
Exactly.
the door.
Blow this house down.
But wow. Oh my God. Yes.
Yeah.
So
So it was a
dream.
mixture of that along with, a lot of times they say that uh, uh, something tragic or something that is life changing event
Mhm.
has to happen in your life. And I've experienced many of those, but this situation was, separating from my ex husband. That something within that also was a blow up moment for me as well to um, really pay attention. And I give all my thanks to spirit, because without spirit, I don't know if I would have been able to, make it through with
Yeah.
my head on high. So just a mixture of all of that happened around the same few years.
Mm.
And spirit was knocking on my door for, like I said, quite a while, and I just chose to finally answer the door, and that got me aligned to my journey now. So
Right, I
Yeah.
can see you like you had that chain on and you kind of open the door a little bit like, what do you want?
Yeah.
You close
Yeah,
it.
exactly. Yeah, exactly. I don't, is that the millennial Capricorn? Not sure,
I,
but
that could be. It could be. It sounds like Capricorn. Like I said, I have a lot of Capricorn in my chart, and I'm the same. I fought it for a while too, but that is really
hmm
fascinating. So
yeah.
yeah, those of you that don't know, me and Karissa, we know each other. We've known each other for a few years now. We meet on meditation, but we haven't really had the chance to like talk about these things, like how everything started. So I think it's super fascinating to hear.
Yeah. Yeah,
Oh,
for sure.
okay, so you saw Pam and Mari-Lyn, and then you started like with the meditations, and then it just kind of. But you're right, it does usually start with a big transition,
hmm
something big, and many times it's not a positive transition. So I can absolutely imagine that that just blew it up even more.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
because then it kind of leaves a bit of a void in your life that you want to fill with something else, and
hmm
fill it with spirit.
Yeah. I mean, you feel so down and out and you're almost desperate. Like, please, somebody, something, someone help me, anyone. Like, I feel so low. Like, what is life? Like, why am I here? Why am I experiencing these things? And it's so easy to sit in those feelings for a long time.
Mhm.
But I didn't want to. I didn't want to sit in the why for so long. I
Yeah.
wanted to understand the why and accept the whys and appreciate the whys as well. But I knew that for me, I needed to be able to overcome that part of my life. And the only thing that really felt good and what made sense is the, spiritual awakening journey and,
Yeah.
understanding who I am and, just everything about this world, life. And I needed that to be able to have that, the hope and the positivity aspect brought back into my life.
Yeah, that's true. That kind of it becomes a light in the darkness.
hmm
Definitely. It's so funny because I had almost the exact same experience with dreams and just feeling really low. So it's fun. Why haven't we talked about this before?
I don't know.
Yeah, wow, it's so
Not
similar.
sure.
Definitely
Yeah.
similar. But I think it's good for people watching that are maybe starting the spiritual journey that it's not always sunshine and rainbow. It is, I feel in my experience, it was a lot in the beginning. Like you said, it's like a lifeline. It's like a
hmm
something that gets you out of the darkness. But then after a while, when you kind of gathered enough of the light, it forces you a little bit to kind of go back and to heal some
Oh
things.
yeah.
It's not,
Absolutely.
it's fun, but so worth
All
it.
those things come back up. All of those traumas and woundings come
Yep.
back up. So, I mean, there were things that I had forgotten that I was like, did that really happen? And then I'm asking my mom, and oh, it did. Like these things really happened. My brain allowed me to forget it for all these years until I was ready to accept some of those things that happened in life. And
hmm
yeah, so it's a beautiful journey. But it does it's not,
It's
don't
not
force those things to come up. Allow it to come up when it's time because
true. I like
as
that you,
you
yeah.
yeah, as humans, we all experience so many things in life. And if you're, poking and prying when it's not time, then I could only imagine that you could possibly get to such a dark place and it's almost hard to get out of it sometimes. And I myself can say that I did a little bit of that as well.
Mm,
Um, but then I have a thing where I dissociate. I would dissociate a lot through life. So when I would poke and pry, I would definitely dissociate and then you're numb. You don't feel anything.
yeah, that's
You
true.
can't even express a happy feeling. If something great and exciting was happening, I'd be like, "Oh, yay, that's so cool."
hmm
You know, like I might as well do for dry red eye. Like I might as well be that person, right? Because I couldn't properly express even happiness. You know what I mean? When you're dissociating. So
Well, you're right.
I just think it's
Dissociated. You're dissociated from all of the feelings, basically.
all of it. Yeah, like I protected myself from the bad and the sad, but I couldn't experience the happy and exciting either. And I
Yeah.
have kids. I have two kids, and I don't want them to have to deal with a numb mother. And so again, as hard as the journey is, it's definitely worth it.
Yeah.
I wanted to be able to feel all of the emotions and be able to express all the emotions and heal some of those traumas and wounds as best as possible. And so that's a big part of yeah, that's a big part of the journey. And you could climb up the mountain and then sometimes you're falling back down, and that's a
Yeah,
natural part of life. So
absolutely. Absolutely. That's
yeah,
beautifully said. Yeah.
yeah,
And also, have you noticed, like, when it came to emotions, because I wasn't really too happy about them either before. So I noticed that it's not the emotion itself that's really hard. It's more the resisting the emotion that's a lot harder and a lot more like it lasts a lot longer because you can spend years resisting an emotion
yeah.
versus just feeling it for maybe, okay, you have a crappy day, maybe you like sit and you cry in the shower all day, but then the next day you wake up like a new fresh flower and everything's great.
Yeah, what is that?
You're like, why have I done
100%.
this before? Like,
I know. Yeah, exactly. Like I'm
just
gonna put on
cry.
some sad music and just let's just feel this. It is what it is. Guys,
Yeah,
I'm gonna warn you ahead of time. Today is not the day. Not
no,
responding
no,
to text messages. Like I have to feel this. Yeah. The next day I'm like, I like this energy, like, oh, maybe,
feeling
I don't
good,
know.
light.
Yeah,
So I know
exactly. Yeah.
exactly. I do
Something feels lighter.
Yes, and especially with the sad music. I love doing that because it feels like, okay, if we're gonna start, let's just go through all of it. Let's just poke in that wound as much as we can until it kind of settles a bit.
Yeah,
So yeah, but
I
like you
know.
said, it
It's so
has to
funny.
be initiated. It's not like looking for it, but when you feel it coming up, it's like, okay, here we go. It's gonna be one of those days,
Right.
or yeah. But have you
Yeah.
also noticed that you can, like you said, with doing that, you can also feel the positive emotions a lot more.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I can't tell you the amount of people who have said that they've seen a difference in me, just a different person. And at first, I was a little bit offended when people would say that. I'd be like, "What do you mean?
Yeah.
Like, this is nothing's changed. This is who I am." And I had to, again, that was me trying to not accept the reality and the truth of things. And I was like, "No, no, they're right." Like,
Yeah.
I feel like I was walking around thinking I was someone, but I was almost a shell of a person. It was to that point to where I could give, but I could only give a little, and that little was tough. And so then I would be a recluse, right? And then, I'm not doing anywhere, nothing, nobody call me or text me. I'm not gonna answer. Like, I don't have any more energy to give. But um something allowed me to accept, well, something spirit allowed me to accept, just accept what they're saying. If the common denominator thing, right? So like if it'd be one thing if maybe 1 out of 5 people were like, "Oh yeah, you're different. Something's different in you. I noticed this, this, and this." Okay, well, maybe that's just you. But if
Yeah.
like the 5 people are saying it, probably best to
Something's going on.
maybe accept. Yeah, maybe just look at that a little bit differently and understand their point of view. So yeah,
But yes, I agree with that. But it's you become more of who you really are. Like you
exactly.
said, because before it was this kind. I recognize what you were saying with being this kind of shell of a person, and there was you don't even know what's going on in this kind of emptiness, and then slowly you fill it up with yourself in a way, with spirit, with a sense of self, and yeah. But did you also notice that? In this transition and this awakening and healing, did you lose some friends? Did you lose some people? Did you change friends? How did you, because I know that that was a
Yeah.
big part of my journey. And
Hmm.
I'm a former people pleaser. I want to say I still have some tendencies every once in a
Right.
while, but
Yeah.
that not at all like it was before. And I remember feeling so guilty for actually listening to, well, how I felt and actually following.
Hmm.
Like, okay, these relationships, these friendships are not healthy. I'm going to actually listen to that. And then they started to fall away. Did you experience that as well?
Oh yeah, absolutely. And it became very much a lonely journey at that point. That's the part that was really tough for me because then in one ear I have someone that I was still involved with
Mm-hmm.
telling me that everything's my fault. Nobody likes me. I'm not good enough. That typical narcissistic
Yeah. Yeah. And then
abuse
you
that you
start to doubt,
experience.
yeah, you start to doubt yourself again then.
Yeah, exactly. And so I was like, maybe I am the problem. And then, something in me, I was reminded how and why certain people are no longer part of my journey.
Mm-hmm.
And I allowed myself to transition to that part of the journey. rather than fight it, because of the simple fact that it was things that I knew for many years. I knew that I didn't like some of the things that people would do, and I knew that I would never do some of those things. And um, you got to have that equal balance. And so there was many people that I have lost, and actually with eclipse season started, I actually started having dreams again, and I was reminded why those
Oh, wow.
people are no longer, and that it's the right thing. Um, and it's more so because, and I think it had to do with, um, I started to probably lean into the guilt. Like, I did have good times with this person and that person, and
Yep.
if, maybe I can like have some type of communication with them, and they're really funny. Um, Knowing that I'm not the type of person where I can just do a little, you know, if we're gonna be we're gonna be friends like all the way. You know what I mean?
Yes, yeah.
Yeah, we're not gonna just be the little, hey,
Yeah,
Um,
acquaintances.
so
Yeah.
yeah, exactly. So it had to, that dream. I woke up confused, like, why the heck did I have this kind of dream? Like, all
Yeah.
these people, like, and then I thought about it, and I was like, oh, okay, like
Yeah.
that was a reassuring dream of, you know, who's no longer part of my specific journey, and but I can appreciate each person for who they are and their own personal journeys. Um, yeah,
Yeah, that personal, I know that guilt. That guilt was because I think it's easy, especially when you've been in a lot of toxic, not just relationships. I know a lot of people come from a lot of toxic romantic relationships, but it could be friendships, it could be
yeah,
colleagues, it could be family members, it could be anything. And I know that that kind of guilt is a big part of it, and it's a lot of black and white thinking. Like, at least I know for me, it was like either I loved my friends if they did something well, and then everything was well, or they didn't, they hurt me in some way, and then nothing was kind of well. So I was also feeling guilty about this kind of black and white thinking. So whenever I
hmm,
decided that, okay, these are not the right friendships for me, they would do something nice, for example, and then I would feel like, oh, I'm such a bad person, how can I think that way about my friends? How can I? So I think the journey is really realizing that, it's not about being good or bad people. Sometimes we just don't work well together.
yeah, not
Sometimes,
for everybody, and that's okay.
yes, that's true.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I allowed myself to at least love things about those people, and appreciate things about those people, and
Hmm.
that's that, and that's fine.
Yep.
I still don't have to be in contact with that. For me, I can't be in contact with people. I have to allow something to fully end, because otherwise I know I will go back into the whole, like how you explain how you have these tendencies of the people pleaser. I know that I it's a touchy thing for me. So for me right now, it's best that I just allow it to be what it is.
That's really wise. Yeah, because it's tough. I think people pleasing is a really tough thing to just kind of break fully. And I think that
Yeah.
some tendencies, depending on how long we had them, are really hard to change. Um, Not saying that we can't be aware of them, and just like you said, like, I know that this is something I do, this is something I might fall into, so to kind of prevent myself from doing that, I'm going to take some time apart, or I'm not going to engage in those relationships, because the pattern I get into is the pleasing,
Yeah.
basically. Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's tough.
Exactly.
It's
And then you go back to the whole, when you notice that the relationships aren't equal, that you're not equally giving something. And
mm-hmm.
again, we're talking about friendships, family friendships, or it could be any type of relationship.
Yep.
What you're not giving, what you're not getting what you're giving, and it's just not equal. That then you could, if you're into that, if you're in that place still where you're still on this journey, and
Mhm.
it's always going to be the back and forth feelings and emotions. We're human, of course. We're going to feel things and get back to some of those things that we don't find pleasant. I think that it's so easy to fall into the blaming yourself. I'm
Yeah.
not good enough, and that's why they can't give me what I give them,
Ugh.
because it shouldn't be so difficult. And I had to also, through this journey, I had to understand and accept that I'm not the all knowing. Just because I give in a
I
certain
am.
way,
You
I
speak
don't
for
know about you,
yourself.
but
Okay.
but like just because I type of friend or I do certain type of things doesn't mean everybody else is that way. And I
You're
shouldn't
right.
always expect that same. Now I'm not talking about moral things. Morally, I stand where I stand and I do expect certain things out of people. But um, sometimes and if I'm going through something, sometimes I might need to um be alone for a day. And
Same.
I would appreciate if somebody can understand that and not think that I'm trying to hurt them because it's not about you at
Not
this
about
moment.
them.
It's about me right now and what I know I need to do because I could be a toxic person that day. Like you
Mhm.
I'm you don't want to deal with me that day if I'm having like a terrible day. I'm
Yeah.
not going to be able to give you anything, like I won't be able to. You'll probably feel my energy. Like, why are you all mopey? Well, I tried to tell you that
Yes,
today
like,
is not the day.
get out of
You
my
know,
space. Yes.
exactly. Like I'm trying to tell you that anything will make me cry. Like,
Yeah.
so so there's some people who would take offense to that and would assume that I'm not giving what they give in a relationship because some of them when they're going through those days they want to talk to somebody. But it's so important to understand the differences in people and we're all gonna handle things much differently than the other.
Mhm.
And if somebody can accept parts of you, then I think sometimes it's good to have boundaries. And
For
some friendships we're going yeah some of those friendships it's more about them and that's when that's when it opened my eyes a bit um because some of those people knew some of the personal things I was going through in
yeah.
life a few years ago or a year ago I should say, and somehow they made it about themselves and I just couldn't understand that. And so when I had that eclipse dream, that's the kind of dreams I was having. I was like, no, oh yeah,
Not
I
going back to
remember.
that. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's also like when we had if we let's say friendships. Some friends we've known forever. Some friends we grew up with. And I think that we get to know each other as a version. Like I was
Mhm.
I was a certain version getting to know them. And then you stay that same version with them. And I think it's also like even if you're away from someone, you like we talked about this, we don't have certain friendships, and we kind of try to meet the people again, but it doesn't feel right. With the pleasing, I think we fall into that version of ourselves. It's almost like a role waiting, and automatically with that person, we just kind of get into that role. And it's really tough sometimes to
Mhm.
because you liked each other or you formed a bond based on who you were then. And now then you're not the same. You don't really have something to base the bond on.
Yeah.
So, but you still
Mhm.
maybe have love for the person or something. So,
Yeah. Yep.
but you're right. I think a big part of the spiritual journey is exactly what you said, to just have more awareness. And it's
Yep.
about kind of getting out of this little eye that we've all been in and that I can still
Mhm.
fall into on a bad day,
Yeah.
but just kind of seeing it from other people's perspective.
Mhm.
And
Yeah,
boundaries. I want to
absolutely.
ask you about. Do you feel that it was hard to set boundaries?
I think that with my people pleasing way, yes, until I got to the point where I was really angry and fed
Yeah.
up. And then that was very easy to have my boundary.
Okay.
But when there's people who don't respect you, they're not going to they're gonna have a problem with your boundaries and they're gonna make you feel like you're doing something wrong. Um, so it was difficult and it was kind of like well, let's try this again and okay, let's try it again until
Mhm.
finally I was like, you know what, enough is enough. No, you're not respecting me. Like you're not respecting me and you're also not even hearing anything that I'm saying.
Yeah.
You want to make it all about you. And um I would have just hoped that, shown up for me during my times of, you know, uh difficult relationships. But
Mhm.
again, at that point, that's when it became easy to have that boundary and stick to it. It took me a while. It wasn't something that was just an automatic, I'm strong. No, no, it took some time to
Same here. I still
have
struggle
that.
with it. Yeah.
Yeah.
I know.
Hmm.
I think that I recognize that having boundaries and then some people being triggered by it or being angry, sometimes it feels like when you put a boundary up, some people don't have the self-esteem to know that it's not about them doing something wrong.
Hmm.
I've noticed people that are like that also have issues with boundaries because they don't have it. It just kind of expresses
Yeah.
itself
Hmm.
differently, maybe.
Yeah.
So I've noticed that boundaries can be either like ingoing or incoming or outgoing.
Hmm.
So
Yep.
I think the people that take it really personally are people that are like they have no boundaries, so they have no issue a certain control over you. So I think it would be more like a narcissistic pattern versus someone being more people pleasing, codependent. They just kind of
Hmm.
they have no boundary, like they don't have the fence. While the
Yeah.
other one, it goes through the fence. They don't care.
Yep.
Fence,
Yep.
basically.
Exactly. Exactly. And
And
you
when
know,
the fenceless person all of a sudden puts a fence up, the other one goes like,
hmm,
"Hey, what happened here? This was open.
hmm,
This was an open area. What's going on?"
yep.
Yeah.
Yep. And you also have sometimes, well, in my experience, you have to be prepared for those people getting others to also be angry with you because now you're acting different. And,
Yeah.
all of those things. And like if you're in that people pleasing mentality still, it's really easy to then feel very low about yourself and think that you're doing something wrong.
Yep.
And I don't want anybody mad at me. Like, so like I said, it took some time and it took a couple of tries for me to stick to those boundaries. But yeah, it's unfortunate sometimes the trigger that happens when you're just trying to get healthy and live a healthy life as best as possible. But I do understand that when others aren't in that space,
Hmm.
it is a triggering event for them as well.
For sure. Self-esteem is really like I always say that people that are really narcissistic, um, they have this kind of like a big ego, but there's nothing in it. And sometimes people pleasing is having a I don't know how to word this. It's playing like you don't have an ego, but that is the ego. Does that make sense?
Hmm.
Yes.
Yeah.
So we have
Yep.
to
Yep.
like I know coming out from like narcissistic relationships or friendships, in the beginning for me, it was almost like I needed a bad guy. So anybody that were narcissistic, I automatically made them the bad guy and I wanted to feel like the victim. But then growing a little more and maturing a little more and healing a little more, you realize that okay, this was a little bit of a
Hmm.
I have some things
Both.
to work on. Both.
Yeah.
Yes, yes. And I'm
Yep.
only gonna get so far with um demonizing them. Like I know that
Yep.
they are the way they are, but now it's time for me to focus on my healing and
Yeah.
kind of lay that at rest a bit.
Yep.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And actually, as I started to learn more about um, autism and the people who like me, I fell into that for quite some time.
Same. Same.
I now laugh because I'm just like, of course, yeah, codependency and
Who, me?
if right, like if somebody told me that before I truly understood it, I would have been offended.
Yeah,
You
I know.
know, I wasn't ready to accept that part
Yeah.
for
Yeah.
a long time. And so then when you start to learn about it, how it's a two people thing, it goes both ways.
Yep.
I mean, it just makes so much sense, So
No, it
yeah.
does. It definitely does. And I remember one friend, um, so I had a few friends where we had a really toxic friendship, and then I had one childhood friend that was and he was a guy, so maybe it's I don't know. He was always like he told me the truth. He really like loved me for me, and I remember he told me once. He looked at me. He's like, "You have no self-respect, do you?" And I remember it going over my head, like, "What are you talking about? Of course I do." And then
Hmm.
now, years later, like, wow, he was so right. I had no self-respect
Yeah,
at
it's true.
all. Yeah.
It's true.
No, but it's crazy how we're so blind when we're in it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's that delusional
Yep.
thoughts of this is, I'm the crazy one. This person is right. Everything they're saying is right. There's a lot of gaslighting. I mean, for the most part, every word that you hear a therapist or whomever talk about when they tell you how narcissistic abuse works, you're going to experience it,
Absolutely.
um, and you're going to be able to relate to much of. I feel like we all have the same experiences because they act so similar. It's like They all have it down to a T, and it's like they're all going off the same script. And
Yeah,
then,
crazy.
you know,
No, you could be
it's
talking
so
about
weird.
the same person. It's like, what?
Yeah.
You have some agreement or something like oh,
Yeah. Like,
so weird.
so this is what you do in step 1. All
Yeah.
right. Get that down. You got them hooked. Cool. Great. Moving on. Step 2. Yeah. It's so weird. So it's like, yeah. And then we all react the same way. We all react to it the same way. The ones that, you know, are dealing with that. And so that's why I say, like, sometimes when I like read about it now, I just laugh to myself, like, yeah, yes, done that, did that, yep, that too, that's right.
Check that off the list.
Yeah, exactly, yeah, 100%. But I will say that this journey has also brought great people into my life as well. You being one of them, Pam Mari-Lyn, the rest of TCS. Yeah, so that's something that, you know, you lose things, you shed layers that aren't supposed to be there any longer. You know, we go through tough things to learn from those experiences, and you know, we're going to be rewarded. It's not just I've gone through all these things and there's nothing good in life. Allow your mind to get past the nothing good's gonna happen. I'm just a real big believer in try to speak the positive, try to be as optimistic as you can, even though it's tough. It's really tough. I mean, I've had really, really dark things in my life and thought processes, and thought I'd never get out of those dark thoughts. And
I know
I'm just,
exactly what you
you
mean.
gotta call on, your belief system, your spirit, spirit, universe, whatever you believe. Like, allow that acceptance and, the help. Um, I mean, I used to, like, I'd feel so down and out, and I would be in a really dark place. Please just give me good people. Please align me with good people, like positive people. Like, I want to learn from them. I want to learn.
Yeah.
They have to be out here somewhere. It's a really big world, and eventually, and I didn't even see it happening. It just was like kind of like a slow thing. Like, again, one day I just ran across Mari-Lyn and Pam's videos, and next thing you know, here we are, years later. And, even with people at work, I was always a very much a private person at work. Nobody knew a thing about me. You go into my office, you're not gonna even see pictures of my kids. That's how I was for a good 8 years working at my job.
Very closed off, and yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And, that really aligned with what I was feeling those 8 years of working there. However, one of my most vulnerable years, I allowed myself to open up and truly talk to people and allow them in. And I've also gained some really good friends from people at work. And I do have some pictures of my kids in my office now. So I'm allowing people to know me and learn. And, you can still have your boundaries. You don't have to tell everybody your whole life story, kind of read the room, but allow yourself to meet those people. Otherwise, it's going to be really tough for spirit to deliver if you're not allowing yourself to open up enough.
That's a really good point. You're absolutely right. And I thought about that. I think it was yesterday, with, like I said, with this eclipse kind of energy, it was a lot of weird energy going on. And I thought about how much, just like you said, thought processes and beliefs, how much they play a role. And anybody watching this, that explains why people have so different experiences, like when they have near-death experiences or whatever, because your beliefs are literally going to paint your reality. And I know some people, like if we take positive affirmations, I know for me in the beginning, I read about positive affirmations, and I just felt like a fucking idiot, to be honest, because I was trying to go from 0 to 100. Like there was too big of a gap. It was like, okay, I feel like shit, but here I am telling myself that everything's great. I'm fine. I'm great. So it felt too much. So I'm like, okay, how can I tweak this? And I think just like you said, asking questions, like being curious, like, okay, I feel like shit. Is there anything I can do that makes me feel a little better? And that kind of opens the space to maybe the next step and the next step, when I can maybe, like, after 100 steps, I actually for real might feel, you know what, I feel really good right now. But I tried to do it too fast. Definitely.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Hold on, these are dying, so I just need to
go ahead. Trevor's gonna come soon. My dog, his name is Tyson, but Pam calls him Trevor.
Yep. All right. She sure does call him Trevor.
She sure does, yeah. Well,
That's so funny.
curiosity. So it sounds to me like you're also a very curious person. Has that kind of helped you? There's Trevor, blurry. Has that also
See
kind of
him?
helped you in, well, kind of like getting out of your thought processes when it was the darkest, so to say?
Yeah. So I'm a researcher. I love researching subjects, history, spirituality, all of it. So I can go down a rabbit hole and I'm there for quite some time.
Okay.
I'm like, oh shoot, it's midnight. Dang, I've been doing this for 4 hours. Yikes. So then I would, then that interrupts my sleep. So yeah,
Okay.
we're trying to work on that part. But yes, I love researching, and so I needed to figure out. There's a whole community of people who have suffered abuse of any kind, and narcissistic abuse, yeah,
Yep.
sexual abuse, all of that. So as I was doing this researching and digging, I came across all these different people who have had experiences that I could relate to. And sometimes it's just good to know that you're not alone. There's others out there, and stories are so powerful. I think sometimes they're more powerful than people even realize. And these anonymous people writing about their stories on the internet, they probably just needed to release something, and
Right.
here I am, somebody who's like deep down in the, right in the middle of a, terrible relationship.
Yep.
I'm reading their story and I'm crying with them because I'm like, I feel you. This is so relatable. Like, you're not alone and I'm not alone. Like, there's so many of us out here. And so, as I was going through, understanding, narcissism and, other relationships that I have been in growing up, and, different types of traumatic events. Um, at the end of the day, we're all human and we're all just trying and we're all living, and we don't know, why we're here a lot of times. And, I think it's good to learn and it's good to understand, and that kind of helped me accept, um, because I was living in a world of, um, these terrible things are happening, but it can't be.
Mm.
And then like, no, it can't be. Like, this is unbelievable almost. And what do you mean that I played a part in this? No, I didn't ask for this. So it's like I had to learn,
Yep.
you know,
Yep.
I had to be able to research and learn to help me accept. Because if somebody was just telling me that, if a friend was just telling me that, I can't promise that I would have listened. You know what I mean? And that's terrible to say because that's the place that I was in back then.
I understand you, but I also think that I remember also coming out of this really narcissistic relationship or whatever it was. You are angry, and I think it's healthy to be angry. I don't think it's good to bypass that anger. I mean, I think
Yeah.
that coming to this kind of like, okay, what part did I play in it, and what what wounds in me made me so attracted to this person and made it so hard for me to like coming to that place. But I think it's definitely healthy to go through this because
Mhm.
when you've been through a narcissistic relationship, you have been a victim. You have been a victim to some
Yeah.
sort of abuse. And I think it's really good to kind of purge that hurt and anger first, get it out of your system, like we said, with the sad songs and whatever
Mhm.
people do,
Mhm.
and
Yep.
then go on this kind of research journey where you're curious, where you kind of want to, because it's not comfortable, like you say, being stuck in this anger victim mentality. But
Yeah.
people, they do get stuck in it for a long time. But it could be
Yeah.
like that because they feel either lonely in it, they don't know where to turn. They're yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I'm a firm believer on, all of these communities, and they could save people's lives. There's when you're going through, the different types of abuses that people can go through. I mean, when you're feeling at your lowest, sometimes you think that you truly are alone. Like, there's nobody that can understand this, and why even bother? Why try? And it's such a scary place to be in. But
Mhm.
you know, just have a voice, speak up about it if you can, research it, whatever you got to do. There's people there that can help in many ways, and sometimes even just talking about your experience is is some type of, it can give you some type of release as well, because you're not holding it all inside. And a lot of that stuff is so toxic that I feel like
It is. It
before,
definitely.
yeah, like before healing, I felt so, like there are so many toxic things inside of me. Like it
I
just
know
felt
what
like,
you mean. Yeah.
like the
You
pain.
feel energetically sick in a way. Like you
Yeah,
feel like you're in kind of swamp where you can't just get
yeah,
out. So
exactly.
yeah.
It's like I would look in the mirror and I'm like, I look like I'm dead. Like my eyes look dead. Like there's nothing there.
Yeah.
Like you just feel not alive. You're just
Yeah. Because you're
surviving. You're in survival mode,
exactly, exactly.
you
And I
know?
know that being in these relationships, it becomes isolating.
Mm.
You become isolated. You become so disconnected from yourself. So in a way, you're alive, but you're not really alive. You're just kind of yeah. You just kind of are going with
Yeah.
whatever is thrown because you can only fight so much. So I
Yeah.
think it's, maybe part of that purging the anger and the hurt could be to actually post something on a community, write a blog, do something because it does help. Sharing is caring, like they say,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
it's a lonely place being in toxic relationships. Again,
Yeah.
friendship, family, even family. Like even if you're younger, you're still living home with your parents, and it's still very toxic. It is an isolating place for sure.
Yeah. Exactly. And oftentimes abusers want to make sure that you feel isolated.
Absolutely.
That's part of their thing, and then you're ashamed to even tell people. And I was ashamed for many, many
Oh,
years.
I know what you mean.
Yeah.
Yes, that's kind of shame because it feels like you feel like you should feel like an idiot that you even fell for this in a way, or
Hmm.
that's how I felt. You felt that kind of shame, and
Yeah.
to tell someone, you kind of expected, or I kind of expected them instead of empathy, I expected them to just shame me further because that's
Yeah.
what I do in my head.
Yeah.
So yeah, they isolate you, then you isolate yourself, and you're just stuck in this kind of miserable place.
Yeah. Not realizing that there's people out here who want to hear your story, who want to offer help or assistance, whatever's needed, who want to befriend you, who want to love you. Like, you know, we don't realize that we are lovable a lot of times. And it's pushing through and allowing you got to do your part as well. Otherwise it's very easy to stay in that place.
Mm-hmm. Oh, for sure. And I know how easy it is to kind of believe that every person is going to be narcissistic. I know that I was in this place for a long time where you start to doubt everybody's intention. It's like anytime you find someone new or you get to know a new friend, it's like, oh wait, they did that must mean that maybe they're toxic, or they didn't do that. Maybe that means so you get into this paranoid, and it's easy when you've only experienced people that don't have this give or take, that where it's not a symbiotic relationship in a way. It's only a take and you just kind of end up giving. And so it's easy to base your beliefs that there are no other types of people. So yeah,
Yep.
there are.
Absolutely, 100%. I think that so I have this thing where I'm like, what's the next test? You get paranoid and you're
Yeah.
worried and what's going to happen next.
Yeah.
And I think that again, it's important to w- believe yourself, your body as well. I mean, I feel like a lot of times we do have natural instincts, and many of us, most of us probably are intuitive, and our bodies and things would tell us when something's not safe or not right for
For
us.
sure. For sure.
You get those
Yeah.
feelings.
Yeah.
And
Because
it's
everybody
important to
has that
listen.
instinct.
Yeah. Yeah, it's important to listen, but it's sometimes difficult to understand, like, is this is this a test? Is this the next test that I have to do, or is this really something that's I'm just being, I'm just doing this thing where I'm in my head, or is this truly
Yeah.
something that I need to believe what I'm feeling? So, I mean, and there's no perfect way to know. Um,
Unfortunately.
I'm just trying to believe in myself and um, answer my my calls, my, instincts, because, you know, you kind of don't know until unfortunately. And, the journey is a beautiful journey, but it's not going to be perfect. It's not a perfect journey. And just because you've chosen to, really focus in on yourself and, your spiritual journey doesn't mean that, everything's going to be butterflies and, sunshine and rainbows. And, think we're still living in this 3D world, and we're still going to experience. And, that's going to be it's going to come with the good and the bad, but everything is going to be for a reason. And, um, a learning experience. And,
It's a learning curve for sure.
yeah, exactly.
But yeah, listening to your body is really important. And after you met a few people, you get to know your feelings, your body. Like, the more you get to know yourself, the easier it is to discern who you want in
Mm,
your life and not. One little trick that I've learned, which is not it's not bulletproof. It's not always that it works, but I feel that when I meet someone that I feel is a little predatory, narcissistic, not having my best interest in mind. Now that can be,
mhm.
it doesn't have to be a full-blown narcissist for that to,
Right.
some people are just a bit selfish. They don't necessarily
Yeah.
have like the whole personality disorder. It's up to anybody what kind of people they want in their lives and what kind of people
Right.
they put up with. But if I feel a sense of, there's Trevor. If you feel a sense of competing with the person, that to me is not a good sign. It's one thing to
Yeah.
have fun banter, like when maybe you have chemistry with someone, if you're dating and you banter, you kind of joke around, you tease them. But when you start to feel this kind of you versus me, that's
Hmm.
usually not a good sign. It's supposed to be
Yeah.
you and me. There's not supposed to be a versus there, because
Yeah.
that is the mindset that person has. It's not like, oh, you and me. It's like me and what you can do for me, kind of
Hmm.
way. And if you really
Yeah.
listen to yourself, you're going to feel this kind of like like an adversary or whatever you say.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. I've experienced many different people, and try to pay attention to how you felt when you first meet people.
Yeah,
Um,
true.
you know,
Before they get to talk, like
yeah,
kind of sway you with.
exactly.
Who
It's an initial, yeah, we're
they-
all energetic beings, and it's like that initial reaction, that how your body responds to their energy, so
Good word.
um because some people are swifty. They have some great great words, and
Absolutely.
one can be bamboozled.
Yes, they
Yeah.
absolutely can. I think we all have,
Hmm.
and a lot of people are still, a lot of narcissistic people are very charming. Not to say that every charming person is narcissistic, but
Right.
so I know that kind of cognitive dissonance where it's like, but they're so funny and charming, but something feels wrong. And I think that if you're early in your journey, and maybe if you're still young, um,
Mhm.
it can be hard to understand those feelings. But yeah, we are energetic beings for sure, and not, maybe
Mhm.
not everybody's full blown psychic where you use it all the time, but everybody has that instinct, that intuition, just like our ancestors. You would feel if a lion is preying on you, like if it's standing behind the tree, you feel it
Mhm.
in your body. It's the same thing with
Yeah.
them before they
Yeah.
open their mouth.
Oh yeah, for sure, for sure. You know how they say, like, if you walk into a room and you feel something,
Mm.
and how they're like, they were just talking about me,
Yeah,
so it's like sometimes it might not be that they were talking about you, but you're just feeling their energy. You're feeling people's energies, sometimes. Can't say that happens all the time. Sometimes it could just be us, and we don't love, walking into a room where there's a bunch of people already. That's a whole different story. But sometimes you could possibly feel, people, their energy as you're walking into that room. And
for sure.
um there's some people who would automatically assume, that person's talking about me. I know it. What were they saying? And you get yourself into a little pickle.
Yeah,
And really, they're like, you're nuts. Nobody was saying anything. But it could have been just one strong energy where it's like, that's not my type of person there. Nobody said anything, but that's what you're picking up on. So,
yep, yep.
you know,
Just like you can feel when someone's staring at you, you feel this
yeah.
you feel an intense energy focused at you. So
Yeah.
yeah, but we live in a world, especially the Western world, where we are so caught up in our heads. And
Mm-hmm.
we try to be logical about everything, try to explain everything away, like we just talked, you know.
Yeah. Yep.
But that doesn't always work. It's great for a lot of things, but sometimes it can absolutely get us into trouble.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Oh yeah.
I think it would be silly for us to think that we're always going to be able to not encounter people that could possibly, trick us or bamboozle us. Again, we're humans at the end of the day,
True.
and we're going to experience many different situations and people, and we're going to want to naturally give the benefit of the doubt, and we're going to naturally, it's just me being paranoid. Like we're going to still experience these things. There's no perfect way to live life, but it's okay to at least be aware, so, as best as you can. And if you do have some trusting people in your circle, you
Mm.
know hey, how are you guys feeling? And maybe they're not the best at giving advice either. I don't know.
Yeah.
All I'm saying is we're gonna run into situations, and we're gonna run into people. We have to be accepting of that, and hopefully.
Not to. Yeah.
Huh?
I think it's impossible not to run into
Yeah.
some type of, in various degrees. Some people meet full on psychopath that do horrible crimes to them.
Yeah.
Well, they're in a somewhat toxic relationship where it's not maybe full blown narcissistic, but either way, I think at some point in our life we're going to meet a person that is just not great for
Yeah.
us one way or
Yeah.
another.
I think one of the things that I learned is that as I met some more people, and wondering why, how come they won't, am I ran into the am I not good enough thing, okay, with meeting some people. And this is not even romantically, this is just people, friendships or whatnot. And so
Oh,
it's
yeah.
then I had to sit back and I had to really analyze some things.
Yep.
Okay, I'm falling back into my not being good enough. I'm falling back into my old wounding. These
Mhm.
people owe me nothing. It's not that I'm not good enough, or like, I'm doing this to myself. I am, these are some wounds that need to be healed, and it's nobody else's responsibility to heal those wounds except for myself. And at the end of the day, you know these three people, they don't owe me anything. And you
That in
know
eyes, yeah, because
you
they don't,
know
people don't really owe us anything.
yeah. Yeah, if we're trying to force something, if we're trying to force a relationship,
Mhm.
if I'm trying to force a promotion with, a manager or whatever the case is, or force a friendship,
Yep.
the word is force it. You have to understand when you're trying to force something. And, again, oftentimes you're falling into some of those wounds that still need to be healed, because things should be natural. There should be natural, connections, natural chemistry.
Give and
It
take.
shouldn't have, yeah, exactly. It shouldn't have to take you to, you know, go above and beyond and get nothing back. And then now you're wondering why am I not good enough? Well, probably not the best situation to be in, you know.
Yep.
Probably not the best people to be around, best person to be around. There's nothing that they're doing wrong. You just might not be for each other, and that's okay.
I think that you need to do a certain amount of healing to come to that point.
Yeah.
Just like you said, where you can actually take a step back when you recognize what is going on. Um,
Hmm.
yes, where you can mature. So, like we said, this journey is not always an easy journey, and
Yeah.
many times it's beautiful, magical with dreams. But just like we talked, it does change your life here on the
Oh
physical.
yeah.
It's not for the faint-hearted, for sure.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. It's beautiful. When I think about it, it is beautiful. I'm so thankful even for going through some of the most difficult things in my life. Um, because I know there's more to life now. Before, I was in such a stuck
Exactly.
place that I couldn't even see a future. I was just like, there's nothing there. You know
Same.
what I mean? Because I was so numb. I was so dissociated. Now I've been able to see the will to want to live, the will to want to experience, I want to feel all of emotions. I want to be able to even feel anger, sadness, because before I was so numb. Again, I couldn't feel a thing.
That's even
Um,
numb is like, it's even worse than feeling a negative emotion.
Yeah.
I would say yeah, it's a tough state.
Yeah, exactly. And um I find enjoyment out of what the future holds where I didn't before. The possibilities. Times are tough right now for many people. Weird things going on in everybody's economy, but
Yep.
I still have to allow, a certain level of excitement to be there and optimism to be there.
Mhm.
Um, because that's just how I work. That's just what works for me. Um, and so again, I'm just happy to be able to feel.
Yeah.
That was it was a very strange, it's a very strange experience knowing what it feels like to be dissociated and to be numb compared to now. It feels like a different life almost.
Because you don't really know it when you're in it. Like when you're dissociated, you don't really realize that you're dissociated until
Yeah.
you get out of it and you're like, oh, what are these feelings people keep talking about?
Yeah,
Oh my God.
exactly. I remember when I first started healing with Pam Mari-Lyn, I would be like, why am I like, I would have physical symptoms
Oh,
of, and so yeah, so I would like be walking and I'd be like, oh, like my knees would get a little weak and I'm like,
wow.
what is happening?
Yeah.
But I was so out of my body for much of my life is what I found out that, dissociated that, I had bruises on I was knocking into things, like walking into wall, weird things were happening when
Yep.
I was dissociated
Yep.
because I just wasn't present, so,
Like all over the place. I recognize that.
yeah, exactly. So when I started healing, I was just like, for some reason I can see a little bit clearly, like things are a little bit more vibrant. It's really weird,
And a
but
little
it's such a beautiful thing.
painful. It's beautiful, but I remember also exact same thing. I'm just gonna put a light on here because it's got really dark. Um, and I remember being more present in my body, and then all of a sudden feeling these aches and pains, and just this like lack of good posture, and it started to feel really uncomfortable in a way. So
Yeah.
uncomfortable, but also good to know what is going on. But
Yeah.
yeah, it's scary how long we've been out of it.
Yeah,
How did we
absolutely.
survive? I'm not even sure. God,
What'd you say?
how did we even survive so long?
We survived like in the ether or something. I don't know. Like
Our
we
soul
were in a
barely hanging on.
exactly, like I was way out yonder, but like physically I was here. Can't explain that. I don't know. But it wasn't for the best. I'll tell you that. Maybe, I guess some would say that in order to get through some of those really difficult times, someone say that, yeah, it's a good thing that you did dissociate through some of those very tough moments in childhood because,
You could,
but
it's too much.
yeah, exactly. So, for me, that's obviously what I need. That's how my body and my soul reacted for
Hmm.
me during my tough times. And so, I do give thanks to that because now I'm here and it is, what it is. I experienced what I experienced. And um, that's how I was able to get through life. And now I've chosen to feel emotions and be present. And I can appreciate both. So, yeah.
Yeah, that's beautiful. And I absolutely agree, Karissa. And yeah, this journey has brought a lot of changes, but a lot of beautiful things as well. So if anything, maybe we can just, maybe it's a good time to kind of wrap it up and leave it at that, that even if it seems dark, and many times it is dark, it's not always going to be dark, especially
Right.
when it comes to relationships. Relationships are such a big part of life, that if they're not really healthy, things do feel like you feel, yeah, there, what's the point really? But
Yeah.
yeah, good people exist, good people will come into our lives, so don't give up to anybody who's listening.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
agree. 100%.
Okay, Carissa, do you feel like we've done our part? Are we done?
Yeah, I think so. I know it's nighttime. You probably need to get to bed from where
Yes,
you are.
slowly it was lighter, now it got dark, but it's actually 8:30 here, p.m. And it's still not 100% dark, so I'm happy about that.
That's how
Lighter.
you know summer's around the corner.
Yep, I'm happy about that. It was a dark winter. It feel like it's always dark, but God, it was like here it gets dark at 3 p.m.
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
then yeah, it's oh,
I
in,
noticed that too. So for those that don't know, you're in Sweden, I'm in
Yeah.
Wisconsin in the US. So we're 7 hours apart.
Yep.
So right now it's 1:30 my time. And so my day is just, early afternoon. So I have the energy while you, beautiful, have been awake for many hours now and need to get well rested.
I'm gonna go eat something and then I'm gonna go sleep.
Yep. Go night night.
Thank you, Karissa, for doing this podcast with me. It was fun. We will definitely do more podcasts. I love that we talked a bit about, well, just toxic relationships. I think it's a really important part in a lot of people's lives, and I think a lot of people are going through it. So hopefully, we gave people some insights into things.
Yep. Thanks for having me. Always a pleasure talking with you.
Thanks for having me too. Thank you for doing this with me. Okay, so people, thank you for watching, and hopefully we'll see you another time. Okay, bye.